In the soft glow of a fading autumn sun over a sleepy town on the outskirts of 1890s America, there lived a man named Thaddeus Montgomery, a reserved soul of gentle mien and quiet determination whose existence was marked by the deepest internal yearning he dared not share with the outside world. In a society rigidly defined by traditional roles and stark expectations, Thaddeus harbored a secret that set his heart aflame and his spirit adrift. He longed to embrace a life traditionally reserved for women. With eyes that shone like polished amber beneath a tangle of dark, unruly hair, he moved through his days with the grace of a dancer and the thoughtful silence of one haunted by memories both tender and tumultuous. From his youth, Thaddeus had felt the pull of an identity not easily confined by the ephemeral boundaries of gender. As a young boy, he would steal away to a private corner of the garden behind the family home, where wildflowers danced in the gentle breeze and the rustle of leaves served as a lullaby to his secret dreams. In those moments, he imagined himself adorned in silks and lace, his reflection a vision of ethereal beauty that was both his delight and his sorrow. Yet, the world beyond the sanctuary of his hidden retreat was unyielding, a realm where the clamor of rigid societal norms drowned out his inner voice and left him feeling perpetually isolated. Years passed, and as Thaddeus advanced into adulthood, the weight of his secret grew heavier. Employed at a modest accounting office in a thriving town that prided itself on tradition and prudence, he became known for his meticulous work and an unassuming demeanor that belied the storms swirling beneath his calm exterior. His colleagues remarked on his refined mannerisms and the subtle grace with which he navigated the responsibilities of daily life. None suspected that beneath his well-tailored suit was a heart longing for the freedom to weave life with the soft threads of femininity, a tapestry so delicate it might shatter at the slightest misstep. At night, in the privacy of a sparsely furnished attic room, Thaddeus transformed into the woman his heart secretly adored. The mirror, chipped along its edges and hanging precariously on a peeling wall, became his confidant, a silent witness to the tender metamorphosis that he dared not show another soul. In those rare, stolen hours, the sight of his delicate features, the gentle curve of his smile, and the soulful depth of his eyes captured in the reflection offered him solace, even as each moment also sang of tragic inevitability. How could a man, born into a world that condemned such expression, ever hope to reconcile the two halves of his soul? As seasons turned and the chill of winter crept in, Thaddeus found himself increasingly torn between the need for authenticity and the fear of exposure. His heart resonated with the lyricism of forbidden opera arias and the slow, haunting strains of a piano echoing through empty corridors. In the lonely hours before dawn, when his thoughts would wander freely, he allowed himself to imagine a future where the mask was removed, where the beauty of his inner self could blossom without restraint. Yet the specter of a harsh, judgmental world loomed large. A world where every stray look and whispered comment could condemn him to a life of isolation and despair. One fateful winter's evening, as frost painted delicate patterns on the window pane of his attic sanctuary, a chance encounter brought both hope and anguish into Thaddeus's life. Eleanor, a gentle and perceptive patron of the local library, had long sensed that beneath the mild manners of Thaddeus lay untold depths. On a night when the stars themselves appeared too reluctant to shine, she approached him with an understanding gaze, an unspoken recognition that transcended the superficial boundaries of gender and propriety. In that fleeting moment, amid the dim lamplight and the soft murmurs of an empty street, the two souls exchanged words that were as delicate as spun silk, yet carried the weight of 1,000 unuttered confessions. Eleanor, whose own life had been marked by quiet rebellions and defiant acts of self-assertion, seemed to offer Thaddeus not only companionship, but also validation of his inner truth. They spoke of art and literature, of secret desires, and the subtle cruelty of societal expectations. Yet even as a tender bond began to form, Thaddeus wrestled with the knowledge that their connection came at a steep price. To be open about one's truest self in that time was to risk everything: love, livelihood, and the very essence of one's dignity. The fires of longing flared fiercely within him, igniting visions of a life unburdened by shame, yet tempered by the bitter chill of reality that warned him of the consequences of exposure. As their friendship deepened, Thaddeus found in Eleanor a courageous confidant, one who saw the beauty in his most secret self. In her gentle presence, he confessed in whispered tones the inner conflict that had both tormented and defined him for so long. He spoke of the solitude that came with harboring a truth that the world could neither understand nor accept, and of the futile hope that one day, perhaps, fate might grant him the freedom to live openly. Eleanor listened with empathetic eyes and a heart that seemed to share every silent beat of his own longing, a flame that burned with quiet resilience in defiance of the cold, unforgiving world outside. Yet even in the sanctuary of this newfound intimacy, there lingered an ever-present sense of foreboding, the subtle, relentless whisper of danger in every shadow, and the possibility that the secret they nurtured might be discovered by eyes filled with suspicion and disdain, cast a pall over each tender moment. It was as if fate itself conspired to keep Thaddeus from ever fully realizing the life he yearned for. The winter deepened, and so did the internal chill within him, a stark reminder that in a society that prized conformity above all else, even love could be a perilous, treacherous journey. During a particularly bitter snowfall, when the streets lay barren and the world outside seemed to be wrapped in a shroud of silence, Thaddeus and Eleanor found themselves ensnared in an unexpected series of events that would forever alter the course of his life. A local benefactor, intrigued by the delicate artistry of the town's literature and culture, had called for a gathering of the most refined minds of the community. Invitations were discreetly extended, promising an evening of intellectual debate, clandestine music, and an air of sophistication that belied the simmering undercurrents of societal change. For Thaddeus, the invitation was both a blessing and a curse. It was an opportunity to present a part of himself in a public arena, yet it risked exposing the depths of his secret to an audience whose eyes would watch with relentless scrutiny. As the evening of the gathering arrived, Thaddeus felt the familiar tremors of both anticipation and dread. His reflection in the polished silver mirror of his dressing room revealed a man divided, a persona meticulously crafted to satisfy the day's demands, and an inner self eager to burst forth and live freely. With trembling hands, he adjusted the modest accessories that, for that night, allowed him to straddle the fragile boundary between propriety and personal truth. Unbeknownst to the assembled guests, hidden beneath the measured cadence of his voice and the courteous smile, lay an unbridled passion for life as he truly was, a passion that threatened to shatter the delicate balance of illusion he maintained. The evening unfolded like a carefully choreographed dance. Candlelight flickered over polished wood and embroidered gowns, and the sound of a string quartet filled the air with melancholic strains that resonated deep within Thaddeus's soul. Among the guests, whispers of admiration and discreet glances offered fleeting hints of recognition to those who might have sensed something more profound. In one particularly stirring moment, as a celebrated poet recited verses that spoke of hidden identities and secret longings, Thaddeus felt his heart swell with both pain and ecstasy. The words seemed to weave a spell, transporting him to a realm where societal judgment faded away and only the purity of self-expression remained. Yet even as the beauty of that moment enveloped him in its bittersweet embrace, a shadow of suspense crept in. A figure in an opulent cloak, standing near the far wall with eyes that glittered with a mix of curiosity and disapproval, seemed to fixate on him with an intensity that made his blood run cold. Thaddeus tried to ignore the scrutiny, but every measured movement felt as if it were under a microscope. The look in that stranger's eyes served as a silent accusation, a reminder that the world was ever watchful, ready to castigate any hint of deviation from the norm. Within him, a storm of emotions battled. the desire to break free and a fear of the ruin that lay in wait if his secret were revealed. As the night wore on, the tension mounted imperceptibly. Conversations turned hushed, laughter became cautious, and the air grew thick with unspoken understanding. Thaddeus, though outwardly composed, felt the walls of his carefully constructed persona trembling under the weight of his inner truth. Every smile, every polite nod, carried with it the risk of a catastrophic revelation. The music, though hauntingly beautiful, could no longer drown out the pounding of his heart or the trepidation that gnawed at the corners of his mind. The climax of the evening arrived unexpectedly. In a sudden bout of fervor, the poet, emboldened by the latent passions swirling in the room, directed his next verses toward the essence of identity and the courage to embrace one's true self. His words, a stirring call to defy the unyielding restrictions of society, reverberated through the hall with the force of a long-forgotten promise. In that moment, Thaddeus could no longer contain the torrent of emotion that had built up over decades of hidden strife. His eyes glistened with unshed tears, and a tremor of liberation mingled with the weight of impending doom. He felt as if he stood at the precipice of transformation, a moment where the line between the public mask and the private truth blurred dangerously. Yet the specter of imminent exposure was never far behind. Whispers of disquiet began to circulate among the guests, and the opulent cloak with the unyielding gaze advanced slowly through the crowd like a harbinger of retribution. The once soft notes of the quartet now pierced Thaddeus's soul like shards of ice, each sound a reminder of the fragility of his existence. In the tumultuous interplay of light and shadow, every movement became a gamble, to risk the unveiling of his hidden self or to retreat into the safety of conformity. The weight of centuries of prejudice pressed down upon him, each moment stretching into eternity as he fought silently against the tide of fate. Through the haze of mingled hope and despair, Thaddeus remembered the quiet moments of connection that had sustained him, the gentle kindness of a stranger on a rainy day, the shared smile with Eleanor as they both acknowledged that the truth of one's heart was a treasure too precious to be hidden forever. These memories lent him the strength to stand tall amid the swirling chaos, to cling stubbornly to the belief that beauty and truth were worth every sacrifice. In that crucible of emotion, he resolved, if only for a fleeting moment, to let the light of his inner self shine forth, regardless of the cost. As the gathering drew to a close and the last strains of music faded into the darkness of night, Thaddeus found himself at a crossroads. The path before him was shrouded in uncertainty and fraught with peril, a journey that demanded both courage and the willingness to endure relentless scorn. The memory of that mysterious cloaked figure lingered, a grim reminder that no matter how much he yearned to live as his true self, the world might never be ready to embrace him without fear or condemnation. With the soft patter of winter rain against the window pane as his only accompaniment, he retreated into the solitude of his attic room, each step marked by the sound of a heartbeat echoing the quiet defiance of his soul. Inside the intimate confines of that silent haven, Thaddeus allowed himself one final act of authenticity. Slowly, as if consecrating a sacred rite, he removed the external trappings of the persona expected by society. The carefully chosen suit, the crisp tie, the stern expression that had shielded him from an unyielding world. In the dim candlelight, he unveiled the delicate layers of fabric and whispered secrets of his identity to the night. His reflection in the dusty mirror was at once an image of fragile vulnerability and a testament to a spirit that had dared to dream of a life reimagined. For hours that stretched into what felt like an endless embrace of both sorrow and transcendent beauty, Thaddeus allowed his eyes to wander over the familiar contours of his transformed self. In that luminous solitude, he marveled at the intricate interplay of light and shadow upon his face, a visage that told the story of silent battles fought in the quiet recesses of the heart. The realization that his truth, so long hidden from prying eyes, would forever remain locked within him was as crushing as it was liberating. Every tear that traced a path down his cheek was a silent vow, a promise that one day, in the face of the world's relentless judgment, he might dare to emerge from the shadows and claim the life he had so long desired. In the days that followed, Thaddeus became both more cautious and more resolute. The secret of his inner self, once a whispered hope shared only with the night, now ignited in him a fierce determination to preserve that delicate flame at all costs. His every action was measured, his every relationship tinted with the bittersweet knowledge that he could never fully reveal the entirety of his soul. Yet, in the careful contours of his public persona, there blossomed an intensity, a longing for the liberation that seemed as distant as the far-off stars in a sky too vast to fathom. And while the oppressive chains of society held him fast, his heart danced in quiet rebellion against the tide of conformity. Amid the gradual thaw of winter and the tentative bloom of spring, Thaddeus experienced moments of fleeting joy. He would wander the cobbled streets of the town at dawn, when the world was washed in the soft hues of early light, and lose himself in the transient beauty of a day not yet over. The gentle murmur of the brook that skirted the edge of town, the delicate aroma of blossoms carried by a gentle breeze, and the lullaby of birds singing their morning chorus became symbols of hope, each a promise that perhaps, someday, he might cast off the chains of expectation and live unburdened by the fear of reprisal. It was during one such morning stroll that Thaddeus stumbled upon a quiet garden tucked away behind an ancient stone wall. The garden was a secret enclave, known only to a few who cherished the independence and beauty of nature. Here, amid riotous bursts of color and the soft caress of petals, he found a sanctuary where he could simply be. Beneath the sheltering boughs of a venerable oak tree, he would sit for hours, allowing his thoughts to unfurl like the petals of a rare bloom. In that quiet sanctuary, the weight of his hidden life seemed to diminish, replaced instead by a soft, persistent hope that perhaps the world was not entirely devoid of compassion. Yet even this peaceful refuge could not fully silence the inner drum of suspicion and regret. The memories of earlier gatherings and whispered warnings coalesced into a single haunting refrain. The incessant fear that the delicate truth he craved to share might one day be exploited by a ruthless society. For every moment of tenderness, there loomed the reminder of the very real dangers of exposure. The potential for scandal, for ruin, and for an irreversible fracture of a life painstakingly constructed from fragile dreams. Every rustle of the wind through the garden, every shadow that flickered at the edge of his vision, was met with the disquieting knowledge that the world was ever poised to pounce upon one's vulnerability. As the seasons cycled once again and summer's warmth crept softly over the land, Thaddeus's inner life became a quiet symphony of hope and despair, a symphony orchestrated by the very contradictions that made him who he was. His encounters with kindred souls, like the compassionate librarian Eleanor and other discreet figures who valued authenticity above pretense, lent him solace even as they underscored the loneliness of his journey. In the reflective serenity of twilight, when the day's clamor gave way to whispered musings beneath a velvet sky, he would sit in solitude and allow himself moments of unabashed reverie, moments when the strains of his hidden truth fluttered like delicate butterflies in a sunlit glade. One particularly radiant evening, when the scent of honeysuckle mingled with the warmth of a lingering sunset, Thaddeus's path intersected with that of a traveling artist whose soul burned with the intensity of 1,000 vibrant hues. The artist, known simply as Rosalind, a name that carried both the melody of gentleness and the power of rebellion, was a free spirit unbound by the narrow constraints of convention. With a sketchpad and a pair of well-worn paints, Rosalind captured the transient beauty of life in bold strokes and vivid colors. Her art, a celebration of the ephemeral nature of dreams. In her eyes, Thaddeus recognized the reflection of his own yearning, a desire to transcend the confines of society and embrace life in all its authentic vibrancy. Over the course of several days, filled with quiet exchanges in meandering alleyways and long, thoughtful walks along sun-dappled lanes, Thaddeus discovered a new facet of himself in Rosalind's art. Each line and color on her canvas seemed to capture the very essence of his inner conflict. The interplay of light and dark, hope and despair, truth and pretense. She painted him not as the somber figure he presented to the world, but as a being of radiant complexity, whose soulful gaze and delicate mannerisms were, in truth, signs of inner brilliance waiting to be acknowledged. Though never uttering a single word about the nature of his secret, her paintings spoke volumes to a world that had long silenced his truth. Yet as their bond grew, so too did the clandestine risks that shadowed every step. The echoes of disapproval from those who clung to conventional morality, the whispered condemnations behind closed doors, and the ever-looming specter of public disgrace all conspired to remind Thaddeus that the freedom he so deeply craved came at a high personal cost. Every stolen smile, every silent tear he allowed himself in moments of quiet introspection was a testament to the courage required to defy a society that had no place for the multifaceted beauty of his soul. As time passed, the conflicts that had once simmered quietly began to escalate into a palpable tension that wove itself into the fabric of Thaddeus's daily existence. There were moments of near exhilaration when the possibility of a more authentic future seemed to shimmer on the horizon. A future where the delicate intricacies of identity might be celebrated rather than condemned. But for every such moment of hope, a counterpoint of despair would follow, a reminder that the world was not yet ready to embrace the brilliance hidden beneath layers of decorum and restraint. In a final twist of fate, a winter storm of unprecedented severity swept through the town one cold December, draping the streets in a suffocating blanket of snow and wind. It was amid this tempest that Thaddeus found himself face to face with the full force of a society unwilling to accept what it could not easily understand. Rumors, like icy tendrils, crept into every conversation. Doors once opened in cautious welcome were bolted against the chill, and even the kindly glances of old friends turned furtive and laden with unspoken judgment. In the grip of that merciless winter, the struggle for identity reached its most critical point, a moment when the burden of secrecy threatened to shatter the very foundations of a life built on quiet resilience. One bitter night, as Thaddeus huddled in the dim light of his attic, the haunting strains of an old hymn from a distant church seemed to merge with the relentless howl of the storm. In that blending of sound and silence, he was overcome by the stark reality that his secret, his truest self, would forever remain a whisper in the roaring winds of a world steeped in intolerance. The pain of concealment, the unending cycle of hope and disappointment, and the profound isolation that came with bearing a truth too luminous for the shadows, all converged within him like a tidal wave of emotion. For the first time in his life, as the night stretched interminably before him, he wept openly for the dream that might never be realized. And yet, even in the midst of that overwhelming sorrow, there flickered an ember of defiant beauty, a memory of moments shared with those rare souls who had seen beyond the veil of pretense to the radiant core of his being. It was in the gentle smile of Eleanor, in the fearless brushstrokes of Rosalind's art, and in the quiet courage of strangers who dared to glimpse the truth behind his eyes that Thaddeus found the strength to persevere. The storm, he realized, was not merely an external tempest, but also the culmination of years of inner conflict, a trial by fire that had forged within him an unyielding determination to remain true, even if it meant enduring a lifetime of silent sacrifice. Throughout the long, bitter winter that followed, Thaddeus became a study in contradictions, a man whose outward appearance was marked by the stoic adherence to convention, while his internal landscape teemed with hidden desires, a passion for beauty, and a quiet, inexhaustible longing for a freedom denied by the merciless dictates of the era. In the solitude of his small attic room, he clung to the secret joy of nightly transformations, cherishing every stolen moment of self-realization, even as he walked the perilous tightrope of public propriety. The days passed in muted shades of gray, each one a reminder of the cost of living a dual life, a life where the silent echo of dreams remained locked away like a forbidden treasure. As spring slowly unfurled its tender blossoms and the chill of winter gave way to the tentative warmth of new beginnings, whispers of change began to reach even the most secluded corners of town. In hushed conversations over tea in modest parlors and through furtive glances exchanged on bustling streets, a seed of rebellion took root, a subtle, almost imperceptible shift in the collective consciousness that hinted at a future where authenticity might one day triumph over convention. Thaddeus, ever the silent observer, felt both the thrill and terror of this possibility. With every bud that opened in the gentle sunlight, he imagined a world where the beauty of his soul would no longer be forced into hiding, where the delicate interplay between strength and vulnerability would be celebrated rather than condemned. Yet amid these whispers of revolution, the heavy chains of societal expectation continued to bind him. Every decision, every action was fraught with the awareness that even the slightest deviation from acceptable norms might expose the carefully guarded secret of his identity. The quiet heroism of his daily life, a life devoted to quiet defiance and the pursuit of inner truth, took on a new dimension as he navigated a world poised on the brink of change. In public, he upheld the strict codes of behavior expected of a respectable man of his time, while privately, in the sanctuary of his own mind, he nurtured the tender hope that one day, the veils of convention might be lifted for good. One fateful afternoon, as a gentle rain fell softly upon the cobblestones and the air was filled with the rich scent of damp earth and new beginnings, Thaddeus found himself drawn once more to the secret garden that had become his refuge. In that luminous, solitary place, among blossoms that defied the transience of the season, he allowed himself an intimacy with his own soul that he had not permitted in years. There, in the golden glow of a setting sun, the layers of his carefully constructed self began to peel away like the petals of a delicate rose, revealing, for a fleeting moment, the unguarded beauty of a man who dared to dream in defiance of a world shackled by outdated notions of gender. As the light faded and the garden was gradually enveloped in twilight, Thaddeus sat in quiet contemplation, his heart heavy with both joy and sorrow. He understood, with a clarity born of years of inner struggle, that the dream he so ardently cherished might forever remain just that, a delicate vision, glimmering on the horizon, but forever out of reach. Yet even this bittersweet acceptance was tinged with the promise of quiet triumph, the acknowledgement that to love oneself, even in the face of relentless judgment, was the truest act of rebellion. In that serene twilight, as the night whispered its ancient secrets and the first stars began to appear in the vast canvas overhead, Thaddeus made a silent vow, a promise that no matter the hardships and the unyielding chains of convention, his inner light would continue to shine. It was a vow not of defiance against a transient world, but of an unwavering commitment to the essence of his being, a beautiful, fragile spirit that longed, above all else, to be free. Thus, in the soft embrace of twilight, with nature as both witness and muse, Thaddeus Montgomery continued on his arduous journey, a journey marked by quiet defiance, tender moments of beauty, and the persistent, ever-beating rhythm of a heart that refused to surrender to fear. His story, though shrouded in the melancholy mists of secrecy, echoed with the timeless refrain of human desire, a desire to be seen, to be understood, and to live a life unfettered by the cold constraints of societal expectation. And so, in that delicate interplay of light and shadow, of hope and resignation, the tale of a man who longed to live as the woman in his heart remained etched in the annals of a bygone era, a story of quiet bravery and enduring truth, waiting for a time when the world might finally embrace the full spectrum of its people's souls. The winding years turned slowly, each day a blend of muted triumphs and quiet sorrows. Thaddeus's secret, like an ember smoldering in the dark, fueled his inner life and lit the pathway of his quiet rebellions. In the rustle of a silk scarf or the soft murmur of a lullaby in the night, he found a strength to continue, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit even when forced to live behind carefully constructed facades. His life became an intricate tapestry of whispered memories, stolen glances of genuine connection, and moments of despair that were balanced by the dazzling possibility of unconditional acceptance. Though his outward existence remained tethered to the rigid confines of the time, within his heart, a revolution of truth was unfolding. A revolution that spoke of the power of love, art, and the quiet dignity of living authentically, even in silence. And so the story goes on, a never-ending ballad of a hidden dream set against the tumultuous backdrop of an era defined by harsh judgments and unyielding conventions. It is a testament to the internal battles waged by those who dared to defy destiny, and to the indomitable hope that, no matter how deeply buried beneath layers of societal expectation, the yearning for freedom will always persevere. Thaddeus Montgomery's journey, marked by moments of transcendent beauty and searing heartbreak, endures as a legacy to all who have ever felt the painful sting of being different in a world that fears the unfamiliar. It is a narrative of muted sighs, clandestine joys, and the eternal promise that the most profound truths of the soul, no matter how fiercely hidden, will one day find a light to guide them home. The wind continues to whisper through the streets of that small town, carrying with it the echoes of Thaddeus's silent battle and the soft, persistent murmur of a hope that refuses to fade. While the society of 1890s America may have demanded that he conceal the tender intricacies of his identity, the soul of Thaddeus Montgomery remained unbreakable, a radiant beacon that, in the quiet solace of each unfolding day, fought to bring forth the liberating promise of a life lived in true accordance with a heart's secret desires. And though the pages of history may only offer fleeting glimpses of his hidden struggle, the legacy of his clandestine triumph is woven into the very fabric of time, a story that will continue to inspire and silently implore every wistful heart to embrace its inner truth, regardless of the shadows that may come to pass.